You're listening to A Deeper Dive, a part of the Winsight Podcast Network.
Grocery stores are coming after your business. Hello, this is Jonathan Mays, Editor-in-Chief of Restaurant Business, and in this week's episode of A Deeper Dive, I speak with Heather Lalley, the Editor-in-Chief of RB's sister publication, Winsight Grocery Business. Heather has been the editor of WGB for the past year, and I demanded that she be on the podcast to talk about competition between the two industries. She talks about grocers gunning for restaurants business and how they're thinking more like restaurants these days. We also discuss the potential for that move into more prepared food. We also discuss restaurant versus retail pricing and why there might be a price war in the offing and what that might mean for restaurants. And then, of course, we talk pizza. It's all about grocers on A Deeper Dive, so please have a listen. Here with Heather Lalley. Heather, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Let me ask you this. I am of the view, well, if I were a grocery store, I'm not, but if I was a grocery store, I would start hammering on price over the next several months. Is that going to happen?
Yes. The short answer is yes. I mean, I think price is always a factor, but, even more so now. And hopefully we'll talk about this a little bit. There are other considerations besides price for grocery shoppers, but certainly in this environment, price is huge, especially as grocers compare themselves to restaurants.
What other considerations would there be for grocery shoppers besides?
So many things. So I just wrote a story based off some research that is saying that Trader Joe's is doing really great right now because they have, if you've ever been in a Trader Joe's, they have good prices, but they have differentiated themselves from the marketplace by having this really highly curated selection of products that people, respect. And so they are doing well. There's issues of convenience. For sure, people are lazy and want to go close to their homes. But for sure, price is a huge consideration.
Yeah. I mean, I was mostly being facetious, especially somebody who I do actually like Trader Joe's for the record. And like a lot of some of the, if I go for frozen food, I'll usually prefer going to Trader Joe's because their selection is fantastic in particular. And they got some other things too, for sure. But, their produce and their frozen foods is particularly good. But I mean, I guess my thinking is that, like, if you look at the past several months in terms of pricing at restaurants versus pricing at grocery stores, and a relatively short order, the pendulum is swung from grocers being the inflationary force in the market when it comes to consumer food to restaurants being the inflationary force. Not necessarily because restaurants are raising their prices anymore, but grocers dramatically raised their prices in 2022 and have now really pulled back on inflation. And it seems to me that they are very consciously pulling back because they are trying to get people to keep coming in.
Certainly, for sure. And I was at this International Deli Bakery Association conference earlier this month in Anaheim, which is a huge convention. That's a huge industry association. And I would say the key takeaway, the key message from that is watch out, restaurants. We are coming for you. We are putting in all of these food service options in our grocery stores. We have a lot of quick serve things. I talked to a lot of CPG companies that were developing, what they build as restaurant quality, like high end, frozen potato puffs and fancy items to sell in grocery cases, in refrigerated cases by the meat as a side dish. Grocers are billing themselves as like, here's the place to go get your side dish. Like if you're having to cut back on your Grubhub order and you can't afford drinks and dessert and appetizer, we will be the destination for that. Maybe get your main thing from a restaurant. So grocers obviously very cognizant of the price difference right now between restaurants and them.
What kind of so they're back to really focusing on prepared foods now, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think that has always been an interest, but the pandemic, put a more of a laser focus on that. And now that folks like us continue to work from home, and grocers are delighted that people are eating breakfast and lunch and, multiple meals and snacks per day at home. So they're trying to cater to that and offer more, more prepared things. They are light years behind restaurants in terms of the marketing and availability of some of those things, and in marketing their products as sort of like craveable items that folks would want to order again and again. But I think they're not they're trying to catch up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of a challenge, I think, for supermarkets to really effectively market. I mean, I think convenience stores probably have an upper hand in terms of marketing. You have companies like Wawa and brands like that, or Buc-ee's, that have, a certain cachet with the consumer. Grocery stores would, to me, seem to be a little bit more challenging from a marketing standpoint. Restaurants, particularly the largest ones, have, this really strong advantage of that. They can, use things like social media to their advantage. I mean, look at how many people are getting stupid about the Grimace shake.
For sure. But last year, Sprouts Farmers Market, which is sort of a specialty natural organic grocer, went totally viral with this $5 sandwich. They have it there in deli. They couldn't keep the ingredients in stock.
Really?
There is just such a huge opportunity for grocers to, in fact, this was one of the keynotes at this conference from Alton Brown, was saying, restaurants have a thing that they are known for. You sit down and the waiter says, "This is our specialty. Would you like to order the butterfly shrimp or whatever?" Grocers need to start thinking more like restaurants and need to start coming up with the specialty. Personally, I'm currently obsessed with this poke bowl from Mariano's here, which is a Kroger grocer. It's just delicious. And so you can order the poke bowl, get some groceries delivered, and, it's better than Grubhub. So I think grocers could make a lot more money in prepared foods if they start sort of marketing some of this stuff using social media.
What kind of sandwich was it?
A good question, and I should have researched that, but I know they were just a huge hit with some sort of deli sandwich.
So yeah, I mean that's kind of interesting. Like, I mean, that would be, and there are a lot of really good. I mean, it's easy to forget this, but there are, supermarkets, as you know better than I do, is basically nothing but a bunch of large companies for the most part.
Sure.
I mean, obviously you have independent grocers here and there, yada, 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 but for the most part, it's basically 20 large companies or something along those lines that provide pretty much all of the groceries.
You're talking like the CPG brands? Yes, for sure.
And,
for sure.
So it would be, I would think that if they were smart about it, they could probably really do a number to generate, because they have that size and they have that level of, so theoretically they would have a substantial marketing budget that they could probably devote to something along those lines. But it really just doesn't seem to be what they think about all the time.
Well, so here's the thing. I've been in this grocery job for less than a year now, but I had learned pretty quickly that grocery, up until the pandemic, was a very, very low tech industry. It was a pen and paper kind of an industry, and the pandemic forced everybody to very quickly get up to speed, much like restaurants. But I think restaurants were probably a decade ahead of grocery on a lot of this tech stuff. So a lot of these things around marketing and using social media and using, your grocery store app to highlight and sell prepared foods and restaurant style stuff is just lagging, is a few years behind. Also, while we were chatting, I just looked up the Sprouts viral sandwich, and I think it was just their deli prepared sandwiches overall, because they are $5 and they're packed with premium ingredients, and people found them to be a very good good deal. And I would imagine it brought people into the store where they bought a bunch of groceries and worked out nicely for them.
Well, I mean, that's always like prepared food is definitely can be a very good business. I mean, look at Costco with, look at Costco's prepared foods are phenomenal. And, they don't really have to market it that much. I mean, their prices are how they market. Their quality is, their chicken is $5. That chicken, by the way, is ridiculous. It is, they have no business selling that thing for $5. You can't get an uncooked whole chicken for anywhere close to $5.
But is anybody going to Costco and walking out with just a chicken?
No, I spend $400 a pop every time I walk in. I think about it. I just probably spent $400 now thinking about it. I go into Costco and you can't know. You just and you buy a bunch of stuff and it's just like giant, huge things of toilet paper and, and then clothing and probably a giant television and stuff of that nature. And you really only wanted the chicken.
Yes, because it's
I mean, I don't know. So that's a sort of a lesson that if you have a product that really works, if you price it well enough, and then it's probably the Sprouts thing. If you price it well enough, you can do it. But I guess not enough grocers do that on a regular basis. But it sounds to me like that's something that you expect this to be a focus of for this industry in the coming years.
For sure. If you look at what the industry is talking about right now and what's the buzz at these trade shows is really how can we be more like restaurants? How can we capitalize on what we do well? How can we differentiate ourselves from others? The other interesting thing is we talk about price a little bit. I just, Dollar Tree just had an investor day last week. I was on vacation, but I came back and read through the transcript. And I mean, they bumped their prices up to $1.25 last year on all items, and they were abundantly clear to their investors that is just the beginning. Like that broke down the dollar barrier. In fact, that's what it's called in their investor materials, BTD, breaking down the dollar. And they are now going to sell stuff for $5. And they said, our core shopper is buying a bunch of stuff other places. They're coming and buying 11, 12, 13 items with us, and then they're going someplace else. Why shouldn't we capture all of those sales and be able to sell frozen chicken or bigger packages of beverages or ice for $2 a bag? So that is very interesting when we think about price. And the other interesting thing is these places like the dollar store and Walmart that have typically carried, been a draw for lower income shoppers, said that during this inflationary time, they've been seeing a lot more interest from folks who make more than $100,000 a year. So their shoppers are getting wealthier. So perhaps they can start charging a bit more.
Wait a minute. So let me get this straight. So first of all, can they really call it Dollar Tree anymore?
It's a good question. I mean, Dollar General is not a dollar store. So.
Yeah, no, it's not. These aren't dollar. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. But all right. So you're telling me that these companies are planning to, because they're getting more shoppers with who make $100,000 or more a year, which is interesting. Which means probably that $100,000 a year shopper is really concerned about how much they're paying, obviously, and they're starting to be more budget conscious, which is notable to me. Mm-hmm. But I guess back to that for a minute. But so essentially what you're saying is that they're going to, so they're currently attracting customers because of their low prices. So their response is to raise prices?
Pretty much. Yes.
Yeah.
They said that they have not seen a hit in traffic once they went up to $1.25. It obviously is a huge jump from $1.25 to $5. So I'm curious to see what their report is, next year at this time. But they think it gives them a lot more opportunities to sell national brands, to sell bigger pack sizes, to offer more stuff.
All right. But so is I mean, what are like the Walmarts and the Dollar Trees of the world saying about why they're getting more consumers who will make 100,000 plus?
Well, I mean, Walmart first noted this, when inflation was at its peak. So, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. Everybody is looking for a bargain, looking to explore different options that are might save them a few dollars here and there. The question, I think, is whether the proposition is enticing enough so that these wealthier consumers stick around once inflation normalizes a bit, and that has yet to be seen. But the problem, though, comes if you are somebody like a Kroger and you're kind of like middle of the road, like you're not known for being the cheapest, you're not known for being a specialty, super fancy gourmet, high-end grocer. You're kind of in the middle. Like, where does that leave you, and what do you have to do to compete in the marketplace when you're in that position?
I mean, I think the concern that I would have about, or the question that I would have about the issue of they're getting more $100,000 a year customers is, is that a sign that they're concerned about the economy, or they just are trying to cut back because prices have increased? And then, here in the near future, they could see consumers shifting back to what they purchased before, now once they get past whatever inflationary concerns that they have.
Yeah. And that's sort of the question, the key question here. There has been a tremendous growth in private label brands during this time, what we used to call generics back in the old days. They, have gotten pretty high end now, and retailers are investing a ton of money into developing their own, private label products, because people have gravitated towards those so heavily as they trade down from national brand stuff as they look to save some money. So those products need to be of high enough quality, though, that people stick with them even when prices on the national brands decrease.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. So back to the question, do we really expect a price war between grocers?
Well, I think it depends on your definition of a price war. I mean, are you talking like grocers just like marketing, trumpeting their low prices? We're cutting prices.
Mm-hmm.
We were just talking about this at a staff meeting as it pertains to the 4th of July holiday. We're seeing lots of specials out there, lots of people saying, you can get all your barbecue essentials for cheap with us. Walmart has not been super aggressive about this because I think Walmart is so comfortable in its ethos as the low price leader. So I don't think they really feel the need to go out and be super loud about their prices at this point. But Aldi just came out, within the last month or so, and cut prices on hundreds of essential items. So, we could be seeing more of it. Mid-Atlantic grocer Weiss Markets just did a similar price rollback thing. They're pretty common in the industry. I don't know if we will see what you are an actual all-out price war or anything, but it is certainly top of mind for consumers and for grocers.
Mm-hmm. I want to shift gears here a little bit, and didn't Walmart? I want to talk pizza. Didn't Walmart sell pizza sales at Walmart in the first quarter up 29%, something along those lines?
Yes. Yeah. Who knew? Walmart, huge. Pizza seller.
Pizza sales grocery stores are selling a lot more pizza. They sold a ton more pizza. And that's one of those areas where grocers versus restaurants, that's you see more consumer promiscuousness in the pizza market between grocers and restaurants, I think, than anything else. Pizza I mean, no, I much prefer a restaurant delivery. I would rather get Domino's delivered than get a frozen pizza 10 days out of 10.
Are we talking like a take and bake pizza?
Either one. Doesn't matter. Take and bake, whatever. Take and bake, frozen, whatever. Like, I would still rather, because you know what? I'm lazy, Heather, and I don't want to cook it.
I think Casey's, the convenience store chain too, is among the, top 10 in terms of pizza.
They're crazy. Yeah. Yeah. Their pizza is crazy. So yeah, I mean, you got to roll some C stores in on this as well. Some C stores do not have decent pizza offerings.
Good. Yeah. Again, I think it comes down to the convenience aspect. If I'm already at Aldi and I'm buying a bunch of stuff and I got a house full of kids to feed, one of those giant Aldi take and bake pizzas, totally fine. It's like $6 or $7, and yeah.
The interesting thing, or at least the theory, this is Domino's theory, is that consumers are cutting. They're cutting back, and I think that they are. There's a very substantial segment of the population that is cutting back on their spending in some form or another.
Yeah.
They're still eating out. They're still buying groceries, whatever. They're still spending, but they are shifting their spending because inflation has reduced the amount their spending power. So they're doing things such as apparently going to Dollar Tree.
Well, and I mean, Domino's, as you well know, is partially to blame for that trend because they ruined my favorite 2 for $5.99 coupon and increased it to $6.99 for 2. So when you buy enough of those things, it starts to add up and make it a less appealing value proposition. For sure.
Yeah, and so their Domino's theory is that consumers are cutting back on delivery and instead are just they're just popping a frozen pizza in the oven, or they're getting a prepared pizza instead. Because they can still make it at home, still have fresh pizza at home, but they're not spending the delivery fee, which I can respect as not a delivery customer. And that's so to me that those pizza sales skyrocketing like that they went up pretty well last year. It sounds like the grocery business really pushed that hard last year.
For sure. And I think as grocers get a little more savvy in this and realize, how well they can compete against restaurants, and they develop more things like pizza or my beloved poke bowl or, other things like that, could be more of a close race there between restaurants and grocers.
All right, super. Poke bowl or not, I'm still not getting grocery delivery though, Heather.
Big fan.
Yeah. All right, cool. Heather, this was fantastic. Really appreciate you joining me on the podcast.
Thank you.
And that should do it for this week's episode of A Deeper Dive, which was edited, as always, by Kimmy Kazmarek, artwork by Nico Hines. You may find this and other episodes of the podcast on our website at www.restaurantbusinessonline.com/article/deeper-dive. You may also subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or anywhere else you get your podcasts. I'm Jonathan Mays, your host, podcast producer, and the editor-in-chief of Restaurant Business. Thank you for listening.